Here's something that's not old, it's not falling apart, it doesn't need any sort of repair. It's just a current production air pistol. Seems kind of interesting. Let's take a closer look. Welcome back to Canic Air. What I have on the bench today is what looks like a Ruger MkIV, at least that's what it clearly says on the side here. This weird little linkage underneath gives it away that it's not an actual 22 long rifle target pistol. It is manufactured by Umarex under license from Sturm Ruger and Company, made in Taiwan, and it shoots 177 pellets, as you might expect. Break barrel air gun, which is interesting. There aren't that many around on the market these days when you think about it. Most stuff has gone to PCP or CO2 guns. So yeah, a break barrel air pistol is a bit of a rare duck these days. And this one is meant to look exactly like a Ruger MkIV 22 pistol made in the USA. And they've gone to a lot of lengths to actually make this look very authentic. The grips are almost identical. These actually unscrew, and I think I read somewhere that you can actually put genuine Ruger grips on here. Although, quite frankly, the fancier wood ones will cost probably more than what this gun did. These are fairly inexpensive. They retail for less than $100 in Canada, and kind of nicely done. Very, very precisely made, actually. Rather like it. A lot of the parts on it are non-functioning. The magazine doesn't come out, despite it looks like a separate piece. This little lever here doesn't do anything. This is, while it's a separate piece, doesn't do anything either. I find that kind of fascinating. Magazine release. No, that's just part of the molding. And the only thing that actually does function is the safety, which on this gun is automatic. So when you cock it, it goes into safe. Sights on it are fairly decent. Adjustable for windage and elevation on the back here. The front sight is a glowy fiber optic thing, but honestly, it is about the worst fiber optic I've ever seen. This doesn't glow very much at all. So that'd be a good candidate for just painting it over black. Always generally makes for a better sight picture. Anyway, so what I'm going to do here is figure out what we can about this gun and how they're making it and what they're doing with it, and test it and see how it shoots. Yeah, seems like kind of a fun thing. So stay tuned. So here's our Ruger Mark IV, all in pieces. One thing that strikes me about it is how very nicely made these parts are. You know, very nice, clean, crisp edges. Yeah, pretty well put together, and of course, duplicating the original lines of the original 22 pistol that it's designed after. Obviously, it's not a very expensive gun, so there's obviously compromises have to be made in a lot of places to keep the price under $100. And the main thing is, what strikes me now is the lack of steel parts that are in it. There's very few. The cocking linkage here is actually steel. Of course, this is plastic. So is the grip, polymer, of course. But anyway, yeah, there's a few little metal steel pins here and there. The sear surface here is steel, and interesting mechanism here that the sear cannot go down at all unless the trigger is pulled. That's an interesting safety feature that I rather like, because it's always concerned me on certain guns that while the trigger might not be pulled, the sear is not really held in place, and if a hard knock hits the gun or something like that, the sear could let go of the piston. So in this case, that holds the piston quite tight unless you pull the trigger, move that out of the way, and drop the sear. This gun has a brutally heavy trigger pull. I think I don't have a trigger pull gauge myself, but I've seen some people say they've seen around about 12 pounds pull on these things, which is considerable given that the pistol weighs considerably less than that. So you're putting more pressure on the trigger than what the gun weighs. So that's never a good recipe for bullseye type accuracy. You have to hold the gun pretty steady to combat that the amount of effort you have to put into it. And the problem, I guess, is that the sear interlocks with the piston, which is, again, a zinc alloy casting. Nice little polymer synthetic piston seal put on the end there. Spring just drops in. It's a fairly lightweight spring, too. That's not much to that, but when I tested the gun, it was generating around about 350 feet per second, so which was more than I expected. I thought it might be in the upper 200s, but no, it's actually doing pretty well. There's some casting numbers here and there on the parts. The grip panels, very nicely made. They wouldn't look out of place on an actual firearm, so yeah. Actually, I've seen worse on actual firearms. The piston tube, again, this is a casting. You can kind of clue into that with the molding of the ejection port here, faux ejection port. And the interesting thing is how the mechanism is hung on this stud out here. So given that this is a zinc alloy, longevity is going to be questionable. You know, I don't think this is meant to be an heirloom piece. It's going to last you forever and ever. At some point, I imagine the alloys will fatigue, and you'll probably, you know, things will start to crack, and as they often do on older zinc alloy guns from the 50s and 60s. This one is going to, being a spring piston gun, is going to go a bit more stress than, say, a CO2 gun. So yeah, it's not going to last forever, but it will certainly give people a lot of fun in the meantime, I would think. Plastic guide into an alloy rear cap for the piston, and that's pretty much all there is to it. So the question again comes down to this trigger, and oh yes, this is alloy piston. So how the heck does it hold it? Inserted right here is a little tiny piece of steel, and that is your sear surface. And as far as I can tell, I've kind of fit the parts together, and it looks like when it comes back and cocks, it rests in this notch here, not on the back. It doesn't seem to go far enough back to do that. So that's the sear surface right there. See if I can get a close-up image of that. The sear actually goes right through the cocking linkage, right through there. Kind of clever. And then, so it pulls it back, and you get it latching right there. And for some reason, that trigger pull is very, very coarse. So, improving it a bit. Yeah, if the surfaces were a little more precisely machined. You always worry about monkeying with these things because they usually harden them a bit, make them out of milder steel, but they harden them. And if you grind them down a bit, you might go through the hardened surface and you end up with softened steel parts that wear out sooner than you'd like. So there we go. I'm going to clean up a little bit. I might check into that trigger, just engagement surface a little bit, and put it all back together again and see how we do. But before I do that, I might actually look at this rather concerning part right here. If you can see in here, there's a lot of flashing from the casting process right around the barrel there. It probably doesn't do anything except just look a little bit ugly, so I'm going to try to clean that up a little bit. And one of the interesting things about this gun is it doesn't have a ball bearing latch or any other cleverer part than these little tabs right here, which clip into that surface right there. They just literally lock into each other. So just as it comes together like that, it just snaps together right here. No ball bearing detent, nothing like that. So that would be a part I think would be subject to wear and tear over the years. So yeah, it looks like it's steel, some sort of spring on there, but yeah, maybe not designed to last forever. But anyway, very cool. Let's get it back together again. Here's some of the pieces of flashing I was able to scrape out of the underside of the barrel channel here. It's mostly just a cosmetic improvement. I don't think it'll make any real difference to how the gun works, but it was driving a little bit crazy, and hopefully when I give the gun back to its owner, he'll be happy with that. Happier anyway. Okay, with the Ruger all back together, we're ready to do some chronograph testing. I'm going to shoot 5 shots of RWS Hobby pellets, which are a fairly lightweight pellet, supposed to be around 7 grains. These are the Gico Diablos, which are, I found a little bit heavier, about 7.2, 7.7 grains or so. These ones are a little looser fit into the barrel. These ones are a little bit tighter fit, so we'll see how that works out. As always, it's difficult shooting left-handed over the chronograph, but I'll do my best. Get everything started. Okay, I'll start with the hobbies. And you always have to remember to take the safety off on this thing, and I keep forgetting to do that. Only 316. Yeah, pretty snug fit in there. .302. That trigger pull is so heavy, you keep thinking you haven't taken the safety off or something. It's a crisp pull, but my gosh, you got to put a lot of effort into it. You can see the gun shaking my hand a little bit as I keep applying more and more pressure. 330. 329. 328. Okay, let's move on to the other German pellets. Yeah, they just drop right in. You can see the difference. .331. 331 again. 335. $329. $331 again. So from a chronograph perspective, the G-Co pellets seem to win because they're a little bit faster and a little more consistent. But doesn't mean they're more accurate, though. We'll have to find that out later. So I got set up in my garage. About 7 plus yards is as good as I can do in there. And sorry I didn't get the whole pistol in the frame here. I thought I had it right. But I also thought I'd take the safety catch off, but I forgot that. I started out with the German-made G-Co wad cutters, and shooting just a little bit low. And the group spread was around about 75 millimeters, 3 inches. And the limitation I don't think there is with the ammunition or the gun. I think that both are plenty accurate. It's just the struggling with that overly firm trigger is just, it makes it difficult to hold the sights on target. Surprisingly difficult. The hobby pellets here, which I'm shooting on the top left target, shooting noticeably lower than the G-Cos, which surprised me. But slightly tighter, but again, I don't think I can attribute anything really to the pellets there. It's just luck of the draw with the trigger. I switched over to the JSB Exact RS pellets, the domes, and they were shooting definitely closer to point of aim, which kind of surprised me a bit. Group is still, hovering around that, 2.5, 3 inches, so not too much improvement. Although the very last shot ended up going right through the bullseye, so I'll take that. So what do I think of this fairly lightweight, affordable spring piston air pistol? Well, I rather like it. I think it's nicely made. Very crisp edges on all the parts. The front sight's a bit of a disappointment. It doesn't glow well enough to be a proper fiber optic sight, but you can always put a bit of black paint on it. But the gun is nicely made. As I say, it's a lot of fun. And now that I've got it all, cleaned up, lubricated, checked over, some of the little rough edges taken off it, put it all back together again, I think be ready to give it back to its owner, and he's going to be happy with it, I think, for quite a few years to come. I don't think these things are going to be heirlooms. They don't have that quite air of durability about them, but then again, that might make them tomorrow's collector's item, because who knows how many of them will still be working 50 years from now. So, yeah, put a few away under the bed. You never know. So anyway, thanks for watching. Canuck Air will return. Consider subscribing.